Hi everyone, welcome back to Impulse Investors. Today we're going to be discussing Meta, or previously known as Facebook. And what we're going to be talking today is what were their earnings, why did Facebook or Meta drop so sharply following their earnings, why has it tanked the Nasdaq, and why has it tanked 4% of my personal portfolio, and where do we see it going from here? So let's go into a bit more detail around this. So first of all, let's look at what the headline figures are, and this is what CNBC reported. So earnings per share of $3.67 against $3.84 expected, so $0.17 short on expectations. Their actual revenue was higher than expected at 33.67 versus 33.4 billion expected. But the daily active users actually stayed at 1.93 billion versus 1.95 billion expected. 1.93 billion is actually slightly lower than it was before. So in fact, daily active users have dropped, and this is a big worry for Facebook investors. Monthly active users dropped from 2.91 to 2.95, and average revenue per user increased, in fact, to 11.57, and it was expected to be 11.38. So it was actually a beat on average revenue per user. So that's a slight positive story out of this. But what actually happened to Facebook's stock? So Facebook stock tanked from $330 or $320 to $250. So let's delve into a little bit of more detail about what Meta have said and what Mark Zuckerberg has said about their earnings. So he said that people have a lot of choices for how they want to spend their time, and apps like TikTok are growing very quickly. So he's referring to competition here. So competition is a problem for Facebook, and that's been a problem. The other bit that's been discussed here is Apple's recent privacy changes, and I'll go into a little bit of more detail about what this is, but that has drastically impacted Meta's forecasted earnings, and that's important to note. They then go on and talk about other companies which had similar slides like Netflix, Spotify, PayPal, and so on. So I don't think there's anything too important here. So let's talk a bit more about this Apple iOS thing. So Facebook says that Apple iOS privacy will result in 10 billion revenue hit this year. That's an estimated figure from Facebook. So what is this privacy thing? What is actually going to cost them 10 billion pounds? Now, when the Apple iOS 14.5 update happened, what they did is they introduced AT&T, which is a pop-up which asks users whether they want to be tracked when they open an app. So it looks something like this. Allow Facebook to track your activity across other companies and apps. If you selected Ask App Not to Track, Facebook and its advertising partners just they don't have your information anymore. So that's a massive that's sort of you're wiping out Facebook's advertising revenue just in an instant. So Apple is used by so many people, and because Apple have taken these steps, that has caused a massive impact on Facebook's earnings. So this is my portfolio. Let's have a look. So hardly any stocks are up. You can see there's only 4 or 5 greens there. The rest are red. So why are stocks red? Well, two of the main reasons I would be able to deduce is all the social media related stocks or advertising stocks would be down because of Facebook, and because they would think they'd have similar sort of setbacks as Facebook has. And the second reason stocks will be down is they're related to the metaverse, and that's because Facebook is heavily related to the metaverse, and we know that they have invested heavily into the metaverse. And so if investors aren't seeing any quick gains on Facebook, even though they've gone into their metaverse, they'll be thinking, oh crap, is this metaverse play actually that good? But metaverse is more of a long-term investment because the metaverse hasn't really developed. So this would probably be a false conclusion to get to if you are sort of just selling a share because it's metaverse related. So let's have a look at what's most sold in my portfolio. So as I said, social media stocks. So Snapchat sold more, Pinterest, Shopify. Then there's e-commerce stocks like Amazon that has sold off. StoneCo, which is Brazilian sort of Revolut or Brazilian Square, that's just been selling off drastically, and that's continued to be heavily sold off. Unity Software, which is a metaverse play, has been sold off. Let's see what Roblox is doing, because that's another metaverse play. Search Roblox. So you go. That's Roblox is down about 3.54%. So it's not that as drastically down as its other stocks. But as you can see, there's a wide red sell-off here. Most of my portfolio is down, and that's an indication of what's actually happening right now. A lot of the social media companies and the metaverse companies are trading down, and so are a lot of the other tech companies, because they will just follow if other tech companies are selling off. So what do I think about Facebook's future? So I think, first of all, there is reason for the stock to be selling off because the advertising revenue has dipped and the number of users have stayed the same. So there's a fear that, has growth stopped in Facebook? Are Facebook not adding any more users? Well, you saw from the figures that, in fact, the amount of revenue per user has actually increased. So they are finding ways to grow their income still, even though the users has sort of almost stagnated. They're also coming up with different types of plays like the metaverse. And I'm sure that's not where it stops. Mark Zuckerberg is very innovative, and I'm sure he's got other things up his sleeve. So a 220 billion drop in value, or even more than that now, whatever Facebook's value is, $230 or $240, sounds like a bargain to me. It's not one which you'll see a quick upwards trajectory straight away, but it's one I'd say is a good long-term investment. Now, what about other stocks that are selling off like Snapchat, Pinterest? Again, the same thesis applies. These are short-term factors, and I'm sure the companies will resolve them in the longer term. And in terms of like the metaverse stocks which are selling off, and the e-commerce stocks which are selling off, again, I think these have been sold off too far. Now, one thing to note is Snapchat and Pinterest are also reporting their earnings today, as well as Unity. So I would have a close eye on what they say and see if there's a continued sell-off or if there's a rebound back. So maybe I'd hold off on investing before the earnings. If you want to take a gamble, you could invest before, but I would probably hold off before the earnings and the earnings call, and then I'll decide my next move. But that's just a quick summary of what's happened, why the stock market's dropped, and why, again, there's no need to panic. Just continue long-term investing. Thanks for listening.